Whoa,
She
this is
warned
the
him
best stew I've ever
not
tasted.
to taste
Really?
her
Let
food.
me try some.
One
It's
bite
incredible. You have
changed
to
his
taste
life.
this.
Subscribe.
Wait, where are
Wild
you
West
going with
Legends
that?
for more
To the
unforgettable
saloon. Everyone needs
stories.
to try this.
The town of Dust Creek laughed every morning at Mabel Quinn. They laughed when she walked to market, carrying sacks of flour on her shoulders. They laughed at her worn apron, her round figure, her flour-covered cheeks, and the tiny roadside kitchen she built with her father's old lumber. Yet before sunrise, the same people lined up outside her window for hot biscuits, beef stew, peach pies, cinnamon bread, and cornbread dripping with butter. They mocked her face, then begged for her food. Mabel never argued. She simply cooked. Her hands moved like music. Dough obeyed her fingers. Fire answered her timing. But when the laughter grew cruel, she would quietly lower her eyes and keep stirring. Her father had died owing debts. Her mother had died tired. That kitchen was all she had left. Some nights, she cried into the flour so no one would hear. Some mornings, she smiled before opening the shutters, then lost the smile when the first insult arrived. Still, she fed everyone. Rich men, poor widows, ranch hands, hungry children who had no coins. She always found extra bread for them. Then one blazing afternoon, Dust Creek went silent. A lone rider entered town on a black horse, tall, broad shoulders, black duster coat, weathered hat low over sharp eyes, scar along his jaw, revolver at his hip. The kind of man trouble stepped aside for. He stopped his horse outside Mabel's kitchen and tied the reins without a word. Men on the porch muttered. Women stared. Everyone knew his name. Rowan Cade, ranch owner, former bounty hunter. A man who trusted no one and never smiled twice. Some said he once crossed 3 deserts to save a brother who betrayed him. Others said he had buried more enemies than most sheriffs ever arrested. He stepped inside the kitchen and said, "I need food." Mabel did not look up from kneading dough, then sit down like everyone else. The room froze. No one spoke to Rowan Cade that way. Slowly, he pulled out a chair and sat near the stove. Mabel placed a bowl before him without ceremony. Thick beef stew with carrots and potatoes. Fresh skillet bread, roasted onions, sweet tea in a chipped glass, and on the shelf behind her, a peach pie cooling by the window. Rowan looked at the meal, then at the woman who made it. Her sleeves were rolled to the elbows, brown hair tied back, soft face flushed from stove heat, strong hands dusted in flour, eyes tired, but kind. He noticed 3 ranch hands snickering in the corner. One of them, Troy Miller, laughed loudly. "Careful, Cade. One bite of her cooking, and you'll be stuck marrying enough woman for 2 wives." The men roared. Mabel's hands paused for 1 second. Then she looked straight at Rowan and said calmly, "If my size offends you, cowboy, don't taste my food." Silence dropped like a curtain. Rowan stared at her. She did not look away. There was pain in her eyes, but no fear. That interested him more than the meal. Rowan picked up the spoon slowly. The whole kitchen watched. He took 1 bite, then another, then tore bread in half and dipped it into the bowl. He said nothing for a full minute. Even the drunks stopped laughing. Finally, Rowan stood, walked to the counter, and placed a gold coin beside the dough bowl. "Pack everything." Mabel frowned. "For your ranch hands?" "No." "Then for who?" Rowan looked directly at her. "For me." He lifted the bowl and finished every drop. Then he cut a slice of peach pie and took 1 bite. His expression changed. Something softened in a face shaped by years of hardness. He stared at the pie like a man seeing home after a war. "Who taught you to cook like this?" he asked quietly. Mabel returned to kneading dough. "My mother, before she died." Rowan nodded slowly. Then he said something no one expected. "Close early today. She frowned. Why? Rowan placed another gold coin beside the first. Because I'm taking you to dinner. The whole room gasped. Troy nearly fell off his chair laughing. But Rowan never smiled. He meant every word. Troy Miller slammed his cup down. She ain't your kind, Cade. Rowan turned his head slightly. And what kind is that? Troy smirked. A joke. Before anyone blinked, Rowan crossed the room and slammed Troy backward over the table. Cups shattered. Chairs scraped. The laughter died instantly. Rowan leaned close enough for Troy to smell the stew on his breath. Mock her again, he said quietly, and I'll teach you manners with your own teeth. He released him. No one moved. No one laughed. Rowan returned to the counter as if nothing happened. Mabel stood speechless. You can't fight every fool in town, she whispered. Rowan tipped his hat. No, but I can start with the loudest. Against her better judgment, she closed the kitchen early. Dust Creek watched in disbelief as the feared Rowan Cade helped Mabel into a wagon and drove her to the finest restaurant in town, the same place that once refused to serve her. Inside, every head turned. The owner rushed over nervously. Rowan spoke first. Best table. They were seated by the front window. Mabel had never sat there in her life. She touched the chair like it belonged to someone else. She looked uncomfortable in her plain dress and flour-stained sleeves. Rowan noticed. You want to leave? She shook her head. I just never thought I'd be allowed in here. Rowan's jaw tightened. When the waiter arrived, Rowan ordered nothing. Bring her your finest meal. The plates came one after another. Roast duck, buttered vegetables, imported cake, silver dishes, crystal glasses. Mabel tasted each politely, then smiled sadly. It's good, she said. But? Rowan asked. But mine is better. For the first time in years, Rowan laughed so hard, the room stared again. I knew it. He pushed the plates aside. Tomorrow, you're cooking at my ranch. Mabel blinked. As a servant? Rowan shook his head. As owner of a kitchen 10 times larger than that shack. She stared in disbelief. Why would you do that for me? Rowan's eyes held hers. Because one bite of your food reminded me life can still be worth tasting. Then he grew quiet. My mother cooked like that before fever took her. I haven't tasted comfort since I was 12. Mabel's eyes softened. No one had ever spoken to her with such honesty. She poured him tea with trembling hands. By sunrise, wagons lined the road to Rowan's ranch. He had spent the night ordering carpenters, painters, and brick masons to build the finest kitchen in 3 counties. Dust Creek could hardly believe it. But the greater shock came at noon. Rowan stood in town square beside Mabel, dressed cleanly, hair brushed, cheeks glowing with nervous tears. The preacher cleared his throat. Rowan spoke loudly so everyone could hear. Yesterday, this town mocked a woman whose hands feed half of you. He took Mabel's hand. Today, I marry the best thing Dust Creek was too blind to value. Gasps spread like fire. Troy Miller turned pale, Mabel whispered. You don't even know me. Rowan smiled softly. Then we'll spend the rest of our lives fixing that. She laughed through tears. You're crazy. Maybe, he said, but I know treasure when I taste it. The crowd burst into cheers as he kissed her hand. Months later, travelers rode from miles away to eat at Mabel and Cade's house of supper, where the richest men sat beside ranch workers, and no one dared laugh at anyone again. Mabel hired widows no one would employ. She fed hungry children for free every Sunday. Rowan stood at the door, greeting guests like a changed man. He smiled often now. He laughed loudly. And every evening, before the last lantern was blown out, he stole one more bite from her plate just to hear her say, I warned you once, Cowboy. In Dust Creek, mothers taught their sons one lesson forever. Never judge a woman by the way fools describe her. Judge her by the life she can change.